Hey, friend.
Hey, girl, hey.
Welcome back.
Welcome.
How are you liking this new bi-weekly drop?
It feels sustainable, but the great part is if you are listening to our voices, then hop over to YouTube because we're much more frequent there. So we've been dropping special episodes in between, right?
Every week we have some new content that we are creating. I'm liking it, and it is allowing us to talk about recent and very important events and happenings in the world and in our country, which we're going to get to in a second. But first, welcome back. It's our episode on how we're doing with our New Year's. I don't like saying resolutions, but an accountability check-in. How are you feeling at the end of January with the new 2024 energy?
Exactly. And whenever you are listening to this, it can also be an accountability for that time period for you as well.
Totally. There's been a lot that's happened. As a lot of people know, but if you're new to the podcast, hello, we are two best friends filming in Cambridge, Massachusetts, though only one of us lives here, but we are very close to Harvard University.
We could walk to Harvard.
And there has been so much going on at Harvard.
Absolutely. And very tough, Margo. I found myself really fatigued by the news over the last week. And I don't get like that often. I mean, as a content creator who's multi-platform, we have the podcast. It's our job to kind of be on the top of these types of issues. But the past 2 weeks have been very, very difficult for me because of some of this that we're going to discuss today around President Gay.
Yeah, for me as well. I think for a lot of topics that I know are going to kind of sap my energy, I am able to compartmentalize and like decide what I'm going to ingest, consume, digest, or let kind of internalize in my body and mind. But this one, I have felt it is important, and a lot of people want to talk about it.
Absolutely. So tee us up, Em, for people in our audience who don't know much about this situation. Let us know.
Okay, so I'm just going to preface this that I think a lot of our listeners, maybe our Gen Z listeners most, but maybe not, are going to ask or question why we're talking about Harvard and why Harvard is important to them. They're never going to go to Harvard. They have no access to an elite institution like Harvard. And what I would say is that Harvard, as a private institution that has a lot of power and sway in the academic and economic world, is a precursor or an indicator of where we're moving.
Ooh, that's good. Okay.
So if you have any interest in going to a private institution for education, or your family goes to a private institution for education, or you're a member of a private institution like a club or a company, I think what is happening at Harvard is very concerning.
Okay.
So it does have an impact way beyond the gates of Harvard. I will never be at Harvard, but I think that the impact is wide.
And also research as well, which is what happens at a lot of these academic institutions, especially Harvard.
Great. So I'm going to give a little bit of a backdrop to kind of what has happened. Obviously, many of us know Dr. Claudine Gay resigned, but we're going to question if that was actually a resignation or a forced resignation. But let's just start. December 15, 2022, Harvard announces that Dr. Gay will succeed University President Larry Bacco as president of the university. She becomes president on July 1st of last summer, 2023. October 7, 2023, Hamas attacked Israel. Several Harvard student groups issued a statement after the Hamas terrorist attack, referencing the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, saying that Israel is entirely responsible for all unfolding violence. There is a lot of backlash on campus. October 24, 2023, the New York Post approaches Harvard asking for comment on more than 24 instances in which Gay's work appeared to closely parallel words from other pieces of work. So allegations of plagiarism. That was October 24, 2023. On November 30th, 2023, Harvard joins a list of institutions being investigated for complaints of anti-Semitism on campus. December 5th, 2023, Dr. Gay and two other university presidents, the president of the University of Pennsylvania and the president of Massachusetts Institute of Technology, appear before the House Education Committee in D.C. over how the university has handled allegations of anti-Semitism on campus. in a tense, now very popularized back and forth between New York Republican Representative Elise Stefanik, where Stefanik asked Gay, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules on bullying and harassment? Gay responds, the rules around bullying and harassment are quite specific. And if the context in which the language is used amounts to bullying and harassment, then we take action against it. After that, Stefanik subsequently calls for Dr. Gay and the other presidents to resign. December 6, 2023, Dr. Gay responds to the backlash that her comments caused, saying, there are some who have confused a right to free expression with the idea that Harvard will condone calls for violence against Jewish students and calls for violence or genocide against the Jewish community or any religious or ethnic group as vile. December 2023 of last month, in an interview with the Crimson, the Harvard newspaper, Dr. Gay apologizes for her remarks during the congressional hearing, saying that words matter. And when words amplify distress and pain, I don't know how you feel anything but regret, Dr. Gay told the newspaper. On December 12th, 2023, amid questions over Dr. Gay's fate, the Harvard Corporation, which we are now learning more and more about, issues a statement unanimously affirming its support for the president. December 19th, 2023, an anonymous complaint addressed to the Harvard Faculty of Arts and Sciences alleges that there have been over 40 instances of plagiarism by Dr. Gay. December 20th, a day later, Harvard says it found 2 additional instances of duplicative language. January 1st of this year, just a few weeks ago, the Washington Free Beacon publishes an anonymous complaint leveling 6 more accusations. And on January 2nd, 2024, Dr. Gay announces her resignation.
And we should also say that based upon her op-ed in the Times, that what we can also assume is that there was a lot of racist vitriol and attacks happening behind the scenes.
We know there were.
Targeted towards her that were frightening, and she uses that word specifically. Margo, can you just bring up for people who don't know why these plagiarism attacks are important?
Sure. So plagiarism is a big deal. Both as a student, of course, plagiarism is unacceptable. It's a grounds for being suspended or expelled from school. Plagiarism being the intentional or not intentional adopting of someone else's work and not attributing it properly, or words.
Okay.
So there's different forms of plagiarism, right? There's like the cut and paste, where you cut and paste someone else's work and don't cite it. I would argue unintentional forms of plagiarism, which are potentially not citing appropriately or unintentionally using someone's language. And it is a big deal. I would say it becomes frightening, I think, for faculty, right? Because many faculty, particularly at an institution like Harvard on a tenure track, are expected to produce and publish and engage in what's called scholarly pursuits, so writing articles. Most people who are not in academia don't know that academics, that is the bulk of what many academics do. And so there's a lot of pressure to publish. Depending on the institution, right? Sometimes people have teaching assistants or research assistants who can help with your research. And there's a lot of back and forth around drafts.
Yeah,
and
sure.
So it is quite possible that a lot of plagiarism is unintentional.
And let me just say, because I want to situate your brilliance and expertise on this issue as being a scholar who has been very widely published, but also in the New England Journal of Medicine,
widely published,
the world's premier academic journal. So when you talk
on the
about
coattails of a very famous OBGYN.
No, we're not going to do that today. It's 2024.
2024. Those thoughts are out.
They are gone, my G. So stand 10 toes down on business. My girl, New England Journal of Medicine. So when we talk about what it takes to be a scholar in the academy, Professor Margo Lindauer knows all about it.
So, okay, thank you. I would also say the reason that I get viscerally sweaty talking about this is that this could happen to anyone.
Yeah.
What has happened? I mean, obviously I would, but that the unintentional adopting of someone else's language is deeply fear-inducing, right, for an academic, because it will ruin your career.
Damn.
And I would say that there is good reason for that because we hold students to a high standard. And so the allegations of plagiarism, and I don't know all of them around Dr. Gay, but there were multiple,
Yeah.
and in multiple pieces of work, is that sort of misstep or alleged misstep, if that product was written by a student, would be an actionable offense.
Okay.
And so I think we can agree that we can't hold faculty to a different standard than we hold the students that they teach.
Especially when it's the president of the university, for
Correct.
sure. But what I find so interesting, though, is that I don't know if these accusations go back to the time in which she was attempting to get tenured or attempting to get her PhD. I don't know what writing this was in her career.
I think most of it, and we can double check, but my understanding was that most of it was much earlier on in her career. From what I can tell, she wrote numerous articles as she was getting her PhD and when she was coming up for tenure, which is very common, and then pretty quickly transferred from Stanford to Harvard and pretty quickly became an administrator. And once you become an administrator, it's very difficult to publish. And so she does not have a lot of scholarly work over this last phase of her career. But anyway, I think...
Well, I bring that up because it seems to me that these are also pieces of academic writing that to some degree have been vetted by colleagues and by others.
So here's where I come down on this.
Okay.
This is Harvard's problem, not Dr. Gay's.
Okay.
Like, sure, I mean, yes, she shouldn't have plagiarized, of course, but there were so many opportunities for people to pick up on this that they didn't. Why now?
Why now? So let's talk about it, because who brought this to the forefront? I mean, you talked about in your timeline, Margo, that this was brought up on October 24th and then again, I think, in December. So who's behind this?
Oh, this was so we have talked about this a lot, and like, Democrats, get your shit together.
Period.
So this was a coordinated effort by the right. They literally laid out their plan for evicting Dr. Gay from office on various Substacks. Christopher Rufo, who's a far-right activist, was part of this. There were allegations against Dr. Gay before she even became president because the far right had issues with her scholarship. I mean, she's a critical race theorist, and she was at the forefront of creating the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion on campus at Harvard University. So she had a target. I don't even like using that, but like, she was the subject.
They wanted her out.
They wanted her out.
They wanted her out, and this provided the opportunity to do so. So I want to go back, Margo, because I could not make sense of, number one, the idea that 3 leaders from private institutions were called before Congress about this issue, which seems to me to have been an anomaly. And I don't know that it was actually rooted in the concerns that the Republicans claimed that it was. But I also want to get your opinion on the answer that Dr. Gay and others gave. So help us to make sense of that shit, because all of it for me just reeks of some fuck shit. But go ahead.
Is your question, do I think Dr. Gay is anti-Semitic?
Before we get there, though, what do we think about her even being called before Congress?
Okay, so first of all, it seems unprecedented to me. It felt like Congress was calling them in to reprimand them.
And it was 3 women,
It
too,
was
which
3 women, which, again,
optically
doesn't look good. They all hired, from what I can tell, the same law firm that did a terrible job in prepping them. They did a terrible job in answering, because if Dr. Gay had followed her gut, which, by the way, she has been told over and over by individuals in society never to do.
Yeah.
But if she had done that, her answer would have been perfectly acceptable.
Exactly.
What she answered was a legalese answer to a non-legal question.
Absolutely.
And it was terrible.
It was terrible. And what I took from it, the second I heard her fumble and say it, I thought to myself, someone has told her to say this to protect the university from being sued.
Correct. And, you can pull apart her answer in 2 seconds, right? Because if someone were calling for the genocide of another population, it would be unacceptable. And so her answer had no weight.
Of course.
And it wasn't authentic to her or to what actually was happening. And so the response was quick, rapid, and, it was a setup.
Yeah.
She was set up Her attorneys did not prepare her well, and she was not held.
Mm.
I mean, that's my
Yeah,
analysis.
no, it just that just struck a chord for me in a real way because, yes, I think there is a soft landing place for certain people in this society that Black women do not have. And so it's like you get one shot. You've worked so hard, you've gone above and beyond, you have made sacrifices that maybe others have not had to make. It's the old adage of having to be twice as good at every single thing. And when your feet are to the fire, you only get one shot because there is no safety net. No one is coming to save you. We are the fucking superheroes so many times in society. So who is going to save us?
Yeah, I think that's totally true. And I think that we as a society have combined issues that have no place to be combined. I do not think Dr. Gay is anti-Semitic. I do think there are lots of Karens of anti-Semitism.
Hey, Shondo. If you'd like to hear our thoughts on the Claudine Gay story, please check out our YouTube channel where we have a full discussion on this topic. It's a standalone video and it digs a lot deeper. Check it out, once again, exclusively on YouTube, and let's get back into the episode. All right.
Okay, checking in. So it's the end of January. We did a really, I think, fun episode about what our goals were for this new year.
Yep.
And I've already had to modify them.
What? What
Yeah.
happened?
Oh, like, I just haven't been feeling that well. And so, like, I don't know if that half marathon is really gonna
I
happen.
see. Yeah.
But we can get into that. But I want to hear from you. Like, how was your holiday? How are you feeling about the energy you're bringing
Yeah.
into 2024?
So, my good friend Joe, we were talking right before Christmas, and she was like, "Are you taking some time off after Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's?" And I said, "What? Like, what would I do if I took time off?" And she was like, "I don't know, bitch, rest." And I was like, "Oh, it was a novel concept." And so I actually did that. And as you know, I did some work kind of behind the scenes, but I took no meetings. No meetings were on my calendar. And I really used the time to plan. Now, as the workaholism spirit will not die easily because I did like clean every corner of my house, clean my cabinet, steam off the floor, so I was pretty active. But at least it was in ways that I actually needed that felt like I was caring for myself and my home. And also my business. Like I really took the time, Margot, to think about what this next phase could look like, as I talked about in the episode, some of the goals that I had and things that I wanted to do. So for me, that time off has been critical because it allowed for me to just like rest my mind and to work on what priorities can and should really look like. So I feel like I'm doing well, but we'll see soon. What about you?
I feel like I am doing well too. Um, I had a tough holidays. I mean, I had a beautiful holiday season, but I had a tough holiday season. And I'm happy to share why, because I'm hoping that it can be helpful for some of our listeners. But I have a question about holidays
Okay.
and just like how we celebrate them as Americans and how it's like so much and so intense. And it has to be the best time ever with all your friends and family all the time and creating memories all the time. That's very stressful to me. And I always feel like I'm falling short. Number one. But holiday cards.
Okay.
How many did you get?
Girl, okay. I got probably about 4 that were pictures, like couples pictures, happy holidays, merry everything. And then I got 2 that were more traditional cards. Yeah. What about you? So definitely less than 10, probably more like 5 or 6.
I think I got like 35.
Are you serious? Were they pictures or they were all pictures? Which I always found so interesting, especially in the era of social media, but still sweet depending on who it comes
so
from.
here's what they're beautiful. So I'm going to say what I'm going to say. And please don't stop sending me your holiday cards. That's what I'll say. Because I love seeing your faces. I love hearing little snippets about people's lives. I love seeing the kids. My kids put them up all over our house.
Okay.
They want to do holiday cards now. I'm like, no. But what I find so odd is that a lot of the people who sent me their holiday cards are people who I am not in touch with and I have tried to be in touch with.
And they're like, bitch, fuck you. Happy holidays.
Look at my perfect family.
It's strange. No, that is strange. So you told me a little bit about that. That is strange. And it's also strange to me because this shit is expensive.
So expensive. And a lot of people like reached out for because we moved this year. So a lot of people like reached out for our address. So they wanted me to get the cards, but like, it's just a very interesting, and a lot of them send the cards to my parents too, which my parents love, but they're like, are you still in touch with so-and-so? And I'm like, no, I'm not.
Now, I did get one card that was surprising to me because I was like, number one, how did this person get my address? Number two, I didn't even know like this was your family dynamic. Number three, since I didn't know you didn't have my address, why do you suppose that I should fucking care? So all of it does, in certain cases, feel very performative to me. Now, the other cards I got were people who I actually have very close relationships with, and I thought it was very sweet. But this other card I got, I remember opening it and being like, who is this person?
Yeah. So anyway, I just found that really interesting. It was like an interesting, I think particularly I was in a little bit of an interesting headspace over the holidays where kind of feeling like I was struggling. And then obviously, like we know this, that pictures and holiday cards and social media are not indicative of how someone's actually doing in their real, honest life because we don't share anything honest or we're not allowed. We feel like we're not allowed to.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because I was like, wow, I really miss this person. Well, here's a picture of her perfect family.
Maybe you should send a holiday card that says, this year was really fucking hard. And that's like what it says on the front.
So Josh and I were joking about doing one. We're being like, out with the old, in with the new. Like, your breasts are out, your ovaries are out. You've got a new nose from when you were punched flat in the face. Our year was awesome.
This is what I'm saying.
One of our kids went to a mental health treatment facility. Like, we moved and we're homeless. Like, but we're alive. And like, cheers. Cheers to 24. Like, I mean, I'm happy to, it's not a secret. We've had a tough year, but it's just, it is funny where you're like, wow, like, are people, and also like the idea that so many people are now like doing photo shoots for their holiday cards.
Yeah,
so most
that's
of
a big thing. Right.
So it's not only the holiday cards, it's the mailing of the holiday cards. I mean, the executive functioning and sending out these holiday cards. Okay. So the energy that I brought into 2024 is the energy that I was expelling in 2024. Mm-hmm. So I started 2024 with the stomach bug. Mm-hmm. That was unfortunate. But I had just been feeling really, really bad for the last 6 weeks. And I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Like I was really, really cold all the time. I told you I was sleeping like 11 hours a night and waking up and like barely could get out of bed. Like I could barely walk up the stairs of my house. I was feeling like really not good. And I couldn't tell if it was physical or mental or I was having trouble focusing. And so I finally went to my doctor and got blood work done. And this is like where you just have to trust your gut, people. And my blood work came back and I'm super anemic, which can, that's troubling. I have really low vitamin D. But my hormones, so for those of you who are listeners know that I had my ovaries out in October. I'm in surgical menopause. I did it preventatively because I'm at very high risk for ovarian cancer and I'm on what's called hormone replacement therapy. And so the hormone replacement therapy is basically supposed to get me to levels of a 42-year-old woman, but synthetically because my body's not producing them. Anyway, my blood work showed that I had 0 estrogen and 0 testosterone.
Despite being on the HRT.
So, like, my doctor was like, if I didn't know you were 42, I would think you were 65 years old.
Wow.
And my body wasn't metabolizing the hormones. So like
Okay.
I was doing them transdermally. Anyway, my point is that if you feel sick, maybe something's going on. Like I thought this was all in my head.
No, it's not. And I think we train ourselves out of taking our health seriously, especially when we are caretakers of other people.
And I think what's so weird for me is that I don't feel like I don't take my health seriously. But I think that I feel, and I've shared this before, like I'm so needy and I feel bad about that. And so when I'm not feeling well, I think I'm like making it up in my head.
No. But also to be mindful, friend, because I think outside of the perception of yourself as needy, which obviously is negative self-talk and not
We're
true.
not
But
allowing that in 2024.
But I also think that when your body has just gone through so much, we can also normalize things that are fucking anormal.
Remember when you said to me a couple months ago, like, after I tape, I always have a headache.
Yeah.
Don't you?
And you were like,
No.
no.
And I was, and it was something with your eyesight.
Yeah,
right?
this is how I got my glasses,
Right?
remember?
Because you were struggling so much with headaches.
Yes. I probably had headaches, Margo, for 6 months every day. Yeah. So it is, and after you go through chemotherapy, then the surgery and the treatment and the radiation and the thing, afterwards, it's very easy to fall into this pattern of, well, it's not as bad as that, so I must be fine.
Right.
Or in your case, this is just a byproduct.
Or I was kind of like, well, maybe this is how it's going to be.
See? And it's not. Yeah, it's not. And I think we need to say that loud and clear. Not the topic of today's episode, but we know our audience are a lot of women in a big age. We have got to say to folks, please do not normalize suffering because of your age and the stage
it is
you're
not
in.
normal to feel. I mean, I literally just would describe it like I would be sitting here, Tashira, having a conversation with you, which is one of my favorite things to do in the entire world, and see this couch behind me and just be fantasizing about lying down.
Because you were just so exhausted.
It felt like I couldn't, like, doing anything. Like, holding Mari was so hard, but, like, getting in the car, like, like raising my hand. I mean, anything. It was, like, so much energy.
But I also didn't realize, and this is important for our audience too, how much those things, like energetically, is related to hormones being in your body.
And I would also say that we will be releasing some stuff about menopause, because we're both in it. That is so hard, I think, in particular to this stage of life, is that we want to say it's one thing. Like, it's hormones. It's iron deficiency, it's mental health. And it's really kind of the like dance of all of them. And I think it's so hard to know sometimes what's going on because it's like a little bit of everything.
Yeah. So it's a reminder that to be healthy and to be whole, right? Wellness is 360.
And what you need to be healthy and whole changes. And that's not going to be the same from year to year, but even necessarily from month to month.
Well, talking about this shift and this change, I want to commend you for saying, okay, so maybe the half marathon isn't going to happen. Because I think there's a reminder there for folks that the goal is the intention. It's setting the intention. And if the intention shifts, then the goal shifts.
Right. And so, like, yes, at some point in big age, I want to run a half marathon again. I don't think it's happening this spring. Maybe next fall. But I think the idea was getting strong again and feeling whole, and I'm getting there. It's just going to take a little bit longer.
And that is A-O-fucking-K. Good job, friend.
Okay, thank you. Okay, what else? What other things? We know that you're resting more.
I'm resting more. I can move my opposable thumbs, dog. Let me tell you, I've watched that episode so many times when you very seriously told me that my eyesight has failed and now I can't move my thumbs. That part in particular, when I tell you that shit tickles me so bad.
But why was I drinking my tea like this?
I don't know. I didn't catch that. That wasn't, but your face was, you were really concerned about
Well,
that.
I just think that, to your point, like, we can all see things in our friends and our loved ones that we
Yeah.
don't see in
That's
ourselves.
more
Like,
than
I think
fair.
that you normalize, your work is so particular to the work that you do. And sometimes I don't understand what you're talking about because it's like so particular to being a creator. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
learning because I'm a creator now too.
True.
But it's not normal to have pain in your thumbs or like, right. So
I mean, let's maybe like you're a stenographer, if
Right,
they still
exactly.
exist. You're a scribe. You know, there aren't a lot of roles in life where that is a requirement, dog. Yeah, this is self-inflicted. So can I say something? Because I wrote this briefly in a newsletter,
Mhm.
and we touched on it here. And this is really coming from also conversations that you and I have had. So over time, I've gradually come to this awareness of how important it is for me to break up with Instagram and to use that language very specifically.
Tell us more.
Because
Because I know people watching and listening are wanting to do the same. How do you do it? How do you get it
yeah.
off your phone? Blah, blah, blah. that.
Yeah. So for me, the breakup looks like I will not be any longer beholden to the pressure to create on this platform. I am dedicated to going back to sharing, not because I feel like I should, because I am a style or a lifestyle creator, but sharing because I have something to say that I want to bring my audience into a moment, whether that moment is positive, negative, good, bad, challenging, or not. Outside of that, bitch, Meta can kick rocks, is how I'm honestly feeling. So from that perspective, I don't care if a post gets 100 views or a million. I don't care if it gets 100 likes or a million. I just feel compelled as an extrovert and as a creative to share. And that is that. Because what has become so incredibly clear to me is the exploitative nature that exists on these social media platforms. And I'm not down for it anymore. And I think Gen Z knows that, which is why TikTok is so incredibly popular.
But how can you, for our listeners who might not be on TikTok, like,
Yeah.
why is TikTok preferable to
Yeah.
Instagram or Facebook?
So there was actually just recently a post about this. I think it was an article in the Times talking about how much influencers really actually make. And that there is a very small percentage of them, about 12%, if not less, that actually earns a livable wage, like a salary that is comparable to what you would need to live in society. Yet there are so many people that want to get into it. And TikTok was used as an example of where a lot of Gen Zers reside because it is organic, because it goes back, and I'm not saying there's not still an algorithm, but it goes back to the early days of things like Vine or MySpace or Tumblr, where you're getting on camera, you don't have a full face of makeup, a bust down middle part wig, like you don't have the whole outfit styled, your life isn't perfectly curated. You are just saying, y'all, I love this mug. Let me tell you why. Every day I drink this kind of coffee, right? So it does not feel like it is this aspiration towards perfection. And we'll get into this in another episode about like this girl boss culture and this idea that I think for us early adapters of some of these platforms, our minds and psychology begin to interpret them with nothing more than a mirror. And the mirror that we wanted to see was perfection. And we pressured ourselves to create that. But that's not what a mirror is for at all. And I got caught up in that. And I got caught up in chasing also what I thought could be a very lucrative career, Margo. It doesn't mean that I don't still do well and I'm not still grateful for other platforms outside of social media. But what has hit me so clearly, and we talked about President Gay in this conversation, I am too Black. I am too queer. I am too apologetically me. I will never have an antiseptic, anesthetized platform. I will have an opinion. I will be who the fuck I am. That is my responsibility to the little girl that I once was, but to other people just like me. And if Colgate doesn't want me to hold a fucking toothpaste, then I will not hold the toothpaste. I'm not chasing it any longer.
And you feel like because the platform, your platforms being politics and fashion and justice aren't fitting into an antiseptic mold that you're not one of the influencers that is being asked to get the brand deals that would make you a lucrative content creator.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
we're not either.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
Because here's the thing too. People say to me often, and this is what's what I'm looking for. It's not a microaggression. It actually is affirming, and they're being very kind to me. They love it about me. But I think it's what brands hate about someone like me. You are so genuine.
Right.
You are so authentic.
Right. And you, in big age, are embracing a lifestyle that doesn't fit in with what it means to be a 42-year-old woman.
Ooh, talk about that. I hadn't even thought about that as well.
Right. So you're unapologetically you. You're Black. You're single. You're queer. You don't have biological children, and you're happy.
You don't say.
And so we are told that goes back actually to the holiday card thing.
Yeah.
That if you don't have this like house with a fence, this is what's so confusing to me, actually. Because like that doesn't make people happy.
And people fucking know that.
Right. So we know that. So like why don't we want diverse views and experiences on this platform?
I have and this goes to our entire conversation about goal setting and planning and accountability. I think I have a pulse on why that is. Because we want the fairy tale to be true. Even when every sign points to the fact that it is not.
Well, it's not true.
It is harder for us to accept that and to create our own narrative than to just keep trying to fit a fucking square peg into a round hole. I'll just keep doing the thing that makes me unhappy.
So to your point, can I tell you something that I'm really taking around this? So I am also, we are very different, but we have some similarities. And like I'm extroverted kind of sometimes. And have friends and like love being out in the community. And I have found that in 2024, I am committed to taking at least a night or two by myself every month. No one, no friends, no partner, no kids. That can be in my home, that can be in someone else's home, that can be in a hotel. I don't care.
Okay.
But just in quiet.
And doing what? Just relaxing,
I don't know.
whatever you feel like?
I don't know. Like reading.
I love it.
Journaling. Taking myself to a show. Taking myself to the movies. Taking myself out to eat.
Yep.
Like relearning how to be with myself without my phone.
I love that.
And realizing that I get socially exhausted a lot easier now than I did 5 years ago. I don't know.
Yeah. But I love this also without your phone, because what I love from you, Margo, is that instead of posting something on social media, you will send me the actual picture. So I get all of these pictures of Mari, who people know is my fucking spirit animal. And Mari's always wearing the thing with a thing and another thing. And always the Paw Patrol headphones that are not plugged into anything. And it makes me so happy because I also feel like this is a sweet moment that my friend has shared with me and not with the world. And I also want to get back to that. Like every aspect of my life is not open for public consumption. And it doesn't mean that I'm trying to hide. It just means that there's a sacredness to life that I think content creators can miss out on.
And yes, for sure. But I also think that there's something that is lost in society right now, or American society maybe, because maybe it's different in other societies. I don't know. Although privacy and being alone is also a privilege. So,
Yeah,
and
I
being
get
safe
that.
in that solitude is a privilege. But that if you're not with other people in celebration, it's not joyful,
Yeah.
right? Like it didn't happen.
Or that it didn't happen. That's the thing about it.
Right? Like if it's not documented, if it's not shared, if you're not telling people about it.
People have been so invested in who I'm dating. Whose back are you laying on? Whose hand is that in the picture? All these things.
Well, so it's interesting. So obviously yes, I know. But the other the other thing that's interesting for me having this year too is like people will say sometimes to me like, "Well, I didn't know you were doing that." Or like, I didn't know you did that work. It's like, well, you didn't
You
ask. Like,
Oh, you mean like they've heard it on the podcast or online?
Like I didn't know you went on that trip, or I didn't know that you worked on that case, and I'm like, well, I haven't seen you.
Yeah. But I got your holiday card.
But this idea of like people having ownership to, I don't know, like maybe when you're when you've shared some things, there's the expectation that you share everything.
There is a continuous expectation, and what it feels like is that the expectations, there is no boundary, and they also increase. And I just want to get off the hamster wheel. And it doesn't mean that, back to Instagram, I'll never create again under politics and fashion. It just means that what that creation looks like, I am allowing myself to change and to be open to what feels good. And if it doesn't, then I won't do it, because why was I doing it in the first place?
Right. And to your goals for January and my goals, right, about abundance and letting in the things that make you feel good and bring us, wealth and prosperity. It's not doing that. Why do it?
What is the point? Amen, friend.
Okay. Anything else before we wrap up?
Just cheers to a new year, Margo. I've not been this excited for a new year in a very, very long time.
I feel the same way.
Good.
I feel the
so
same
even
way.
with like the health challenges and struggles, you still feel an excitement for the year.
Well, I think that I really thought that I was going to feel so bad and so sick forever. I know that seems really dramatic.
Yeah.
But I think I was feeling that way. I feel a lot better. I don't feel back to myself. I'm on a new, hormone / medication regime, health, wellness, whatever, and supplements actually, which I think are really helping my anemia. So I feel better. So it gives me hope. I think I got to a very dark place very quickly, and that was really scary to me.
Yeah.
And so the fact that I don't feel that bad brings me a lot of like eagerness. I also think I got my horoscope read.
Oh yeah, you told me about this.
And I still need to like reread the transcript from my Zoom with Katie, but there was a lot in there about me getting in my own way. Or like not getting in my own way, about like not, and it just like resonated so much, because I feel like I often feel like guilty about things, or I don't believe things are going to happen, or I don't deserve things to happen, or I don't believe that I can make things happen. And there was a lot of messaging in my horoscope that like that is going to prevent the abundance from happening.
Period.
And so I just need to trust my gut.
Margo, choose different.
Choose different. Thanks, Gabby.
Thanks, Gabby. We love you. What is one thing you were looking forward to this year?
I'm really looking forward to our retreat. Information will be posted soon, but it's happening in Mexico, and I'm thrilled. And so I'm excited to go to Mexico with a lot of the Justice League.
And make sure you all are part of our private community. That is where all of the announcements around the retreat will land first. And we don't want you to miss anything, because this will be a very small community of people who are joining us. We want to hold a beautiful and sacred and vulnerable space. And to do so, we have to limit the numbers. So
yeah. And so for anyone who's ever been to one of our live events, we're trying to capture the energy from those live events in a 4-day holiday.
Yeah, exactly. So,
what about you?
My new vibrator has been Margo, it's been really great. It's been so good.
I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
I'm so happy for you. But like, did you get it for the new year?
Yeah. And it's been doing some work. It's like curved. It looks kind of like it's shaped like this, and then it has a hole on the top. I'm going to send you a link. And we should talk about like different types of pleasure and orgasms and climaxes at some point.
Okay.
Because these things, they have a variety depending on the modality. And I'm learning that. And I'm excited for that and more of that exploration in the new year.
Check out Tashira on YouTube in the new year.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you soon. Thanks for listening to Justice. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to learn more about our podcast, be sure to check us out on our website at justicepodcast.com. You can also reach out to us there if you want to be featured on the show, or if you have a business or a product that you think would be a good fit for our audience. Thanks again for listening.